everyone, and welcome back to the Auto Alfred channel. And as you can see, we are back on Forza Horizon 4. Now for this Christmas special, I'm going to talk to you guys about how to get the best rallying techniques, and of course, for this entire video, I'm going to drive on snow, because, well, I suppose I could just add to the Christmassy theme, right? Also got the Christmassy music up, and, well, you can't see it, but I'm wearing a Christmas jumper, but anyway, you don't need to bother about that. And anyway, hope you have a Merry Christmas, and let's get started with this video. Here are 5 tips on how to be good at rallying. Okay, so tip number 1 is to know your gearing. Now this is important because, well, depending on which car you're driving, they may have short gear ratios, they might have long ones, so you need to be careful with which gear you might want to use. So for this car I'm driving now, it's a Ford Fiesta Hoonigan spec, so it's got quite short gearing. So for this car the gears don't matter too much, but on other cars where the gears are longer, it might matter a bit more. So here I can use 3rd gear. I could easily get away with 4th, but 3rd gear would bring the RPM a bit higher, so then it could give me that top end boost, and of course help me get past LTA and all the others. So really, gearing can help a lot, especially when you're driving a car with long gear ratios. But to be fair, in the rallying conditions, you would ideally want to have a car with short gear ratios, so that you can get away with using a slightly different gear than what you might in a slightly longer gear ratio car. So high speed corners like this one here, I'm going to stay in 5th gear for this one, because it can help reduce the amount of boost that's important for gaining grip for that corner. Next tip, be careful on the power. Now this applies especially more to rear-wheel drive cars like this Mazda MX-5, and also to rub salt on the wounds. This car is also got a 6-cylinder BMW engine, so just makes things that much harder, I should say. But anyway, power. This can obviously help you a lot in rallying because of like long straights such as this, but when you're going around corners you need to be careful with it. It's a bit like an F1 car. If you use the power too aggressively, it will bite back. And in fact, when you're driving in rallying conditions, you know how much an F1 car wheel spins on dry tarmac. This of course is going to be even worse, especially if you're in the snow. So if you don't use your power carefully, that happens, you just spin round. So make sure you can keep the power smooth and minimize wheel spin. That's really key. But if a little bit of wheel spin comes, it won't matter too much, because like I said in a video previously, I think a little bit of wheel spin is the fastest way to go. So that's what you would be aiming for in rallying. Next tip is to know how to counter steer. Now, counter steer people may not be familiar with, so I'm just going to do it by splitting the words apart. Counter, to do the opposite or go against, and of course you know what steer means. So that means you steer the opposite way around a corner. So that means if you encounter oversteer, that's when the back end doesn't have enough grip. You would ideally want to counter steer, so then you can hold it in a straight line. And there's an example of what I've just did. Look at LTA, he's just cruised past me being smug, as if he's thinking, oh look, I'm a better driver than you. But mate, he's just got a 4-wheel drive Ford, and same with the guy behind me, he's just spun me round. That's helpful. And my counter steer is not going to be enough to be able to hold it, so I'm just going to let the others sod off and explain counter steer by myself. So as I was saying, steer the opposite way if your rear end slips offline, let's just say. And here you can see the back end slips out, and you need to use the front of the car, or basically the steering, to help maintain the good line for your driving, of course, and that would help a lot, especially when you're in such slippery conditions like ice. I mean, I was going to say it felt like driving on ice after this, but honestly it is ice, so yeah, that's an important thing to know. In fact, it's useful for pretty much all motorsport categories. It's just becoming increasingly important the more slippery the surface is, and in rallying, that's when the surface is at its most slippery. Next, well, ironically, my tip here is to know your braking point. That's my fourth one, and yeah, as I was saying, we just set off, so interesting to say that. But braking points are so important in any motorsport, but in rallying it can help that much more because of how the grip is limited. So if you brake too late, you have no front end, as you can see here, but if you brake too early, that could make you prone to losing the back end, as you just saw the examples of what I was just talking about just then. So it's important to brake at exactly the right point, so you can get a mixture of good front end grip and rear end. So that can help a lot. Also, brake bias is important too. I think all of the stock cars on Forza Horizon 4 have the brake bias on 50%, but whether you should move it forward or backwards, it really depends on which car you're driving. So if you're in a car that tends to oversteer a lot, maybe move the brake bias towards the front, but if you're in a car that's prone to understeer, maybe move it towards the back, so you can put more strain on the end that has the most grip. Also, having a differential that can regulate the power is important as well. Look at that overtake. I'm into second place now. But anyway, as you can see, driving the Unicorn, that has a lot of power and tends to oversteer quite a lot, but it can understeer as well. So that brings me nicely on to my next point, which is actually the final one of this video. Look at that guy just steaming up the inside of me. Anyway, final point, you need to know the characteristics of your car. So this is important because all cars are different. No matter how similar they are, they always have different characteristics when you're driving them. So, for example, this Unicorn, lots of power, tends to oversteer on throttle, but understeers if you brake too late, and of course doesn't really tend to have that much rear end grip, and braking is not that good, as I just demonstrated then. So what you may want to do is take some time to practice with your car, and you can learn a lot from doing that. So for example, you can see that car that just overtook me has better straight line speed. I think he's got more grip. So one thing that I might want to do with this car is improve the tyres. I mean, this car is actually on standard tyres. I think I'm not sure if they're slicks, but I think they have some tread in them. But anyway, make sure you have good tyres. Also, this car seems to be quite good in straight line when you have grip, but you may want to have some downforce on it to make it more stable around the corners. But otherwise, that is it. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel. Here are some video windows, you can click on them to watch more, and I'll see you next time. Have a good Christmas.